Okay, so actually I've been thinking about this video for quite some time and finally just getting a chance to work on it and bring it to fruition. But at first, I wanted to bring a video more about indie skincare brands, and I've had a few of those and I've released them. And then I thought it's kind of important to talk about the illusion of choice in skincare, because almost all the big brands that we know of are owned by, I think it's like 8 different companies. I think there's almost 200 brands that are owned by 7 or 8 different companies. And I've got a whole list of different companies, and it's going to surprise you. And I have these set up by their skincare revenue, because a lot of these companies aren't only in the business of skincare, they're in a lot of different businesses. So anyway, so I'm just going to start, and then I'm going to talk about a few indie brands. But and every year more of these brands get gobbled up by these huge companies, and the graphic in the back shows a lot of them. It's a little bit, there's a few things that have changed from this graphic. But anyway, let me get onto this. So almost 200 skincare brands are owned by 8 different companies, and most of them are really owned by a handful of them. So let me start with L'Oreal. They're $37 billion in 2022. So this is going off last year's number. In skincare budget revenue that they made, they had sales of $37 billion, which is more money than I ever will dream to own. And they're big brands that they own. A lot of you guys will know these brands: Roche-Posay, Vichy, CeraVe, Lancôme, Yves Saint Laurent, Armani, Kiehl, Biotherm, Shu Uemura. Somebody will correct me, thank you. It Cosmetics, SkinCeuticals, a newer brand to me at least, Skinbetter Science. I've tried the first product from them this year. Urban Decay, Valentino, Youth to the People, that was a new one this year. Garnier, Maybelline New York, NYX Makeup, Essie, which is a nail polish brand, and Kérastase, which is a hair care brand. The newer ones, I believe, the Youth to the People got purchased this year from them in a big sale. So they're the biggest. They own, 20-some brands, and probably even more. These are just the notable brands. There's several more that they own that I hadn't heard of. So I'm like, well, if I hadn't heard of them, most of you probably haven't, but maybe some more of them are regional, you know what I mean? France-based or whatever. And then I'll talk about some of the indie brands, because some of those will surprise you. Okay, next up, Unilever, $25 billion. So they're ways away from L'Oreal. That's still a ton of money. So $25 billion in skincare beauty sales, because Unilever, what else are they into? They're into everything, I think. They're into food, what else? Dishwashing detergent, things like that, right? Cameraman?
Sure.
Unilever, they're into everything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, cameraman's not
Soap.
sure. Soap, yeah. Anyway. Okay, so Unilever, we've got Axe, which is more of a men's skincare. Not even a skincare, more of like a shaving cream line.
That's who makes my deodorant.
Deodorant, okay. Man, is that strong, too. Dermalogica, they own Dove, which is huge. Dove is a huge brand. Hourglass is a newer one to them. Kate Somerville, Living Proof Hair Care. Love Beauty and Planet, which I thought initially was an indie brand, but obviously it is not. Murad, Noxzema, Paula's Choice, that's a newer one to Unilever. Pond's and Noxzema, I think, have some similar products. Ren, R-E-N, Ren Skincare, which is still at Sephora, I think. St. Ives, Schmidt's Naturals, they make natural type stuff. Tatcha, that's a new one. They bought Tatcha, I believe, this year for $500 million. So that was a good deal, $500 million. Thermosilk Hair Care, TG, which is a hair care brand, Tresemme, and then Vaseline. Vaseline's huge. They don't really have a whole ton of products, but they've got products in there. Vaseline's probably sold in every drugstore that I can think of. Walmart, Target, Walgreens, CVS, Cub Foods. I mean, wherever, grocery stores, they're everywhere. Okay, next up, Estee Lauder at $17.7 billion. So now we're getting to the points, because next up we're at $17.6 billion. So Estee Lauder, they're huge. So they own Erin, which is more of a fragrance company. I think they also have lip products. Clinique, Bobbi Brown, Aveda, Dr. Jart, Bumble and Bumble Haircare, Darphin Beauty, Glam Glow. What's going on with Glam Glow? I haven't seen much of them lately. Are they still at Sephora? I don't know. It seems like they had their kind of peak and now they're downward and kind of like Becca. Anyway, kind of like Smashbox. They also own Smashbox. That seems to be kind of fading away quickly. Glossier. They own Glossier. Jo Malone Perfumes. La Mer, how I like to say it. La Mer. La Mer is the proper way, apparently. They own MAC. Now they own Niode, The Ordinary, Origins, Tom Ford, Smashbox. So they own a lot. They have a huge share in the beauty business. Okay, next up, and I guess I'll probably list these all below if I have enough space in the thingamajig, so check it out. Oh, Ike's here to say hi. He's very interested in the beauty brands. Okay, so next up we've got Proctor and Gamble at $14.4 billion. So now we're getting into the smaller numbers, but Procter and Gamble, they're huge. I mean, they own, doesn't Procter and Gamble own? I think they own everything. I think they own Nestle, or maybe it's Unilever that owns Nestle. I think it's Procter and Gamble owns part of Nestle. I can't remember, but anyway, Nestle's somewhere in here, or maybe it's Unilever. I think it's Unilever. Okay, I might have misspoke. Okay, so Procter and Gamble, newer to this year, Farmacy Beauty, they bought them. First Aid Beauty, Gillette, Head & Shoulders, Herbal Essences Hair Care, Ivory Soap, Mielle Organics, which I think is a hair care company. They own Nexus, Olay. They also own the Ouai skincare brand, hair care brand, Ouai, I think that's how you say it, Pantene, Secret, SK2, and Tula Skincare. That's a newer one to them as well. So they're huge contender. Although, you know what, their listing is a lot smaller, but, you know, some of these brands are huge, like Ivory and Pantene. There's a hair care researcher that's made some interesting posts and things like that. And she says she did research on hair care products, and no matter basically what they compared it to, Pantene always won every trial, no matter what. There's always Pantene that won. So anyway. Okay, next up, coming at $9 billion is Shiseido, and they're kind of tiny compared to all these, but they don't own that many. So they own Anessa Sun Care, which is more of a luxury brand. Cloud de Peau, I don't know. There's a lot of hashtags above it, so I'm sure it's Francais. Dolce & Gabbana, notably they bought Drunk Elephant, I believe it was last year, for about $1 billion. A brand called Elixir, NARS they own, and then the Ginza, which is, I think, a J-Beauty brand. So Shiseido's tiny, but they're growing pretty fast, especially with, I think, purchasing Drunk Elephant. They're growing a lot faster than they have in the last few years. I want to mention this. It's not on the slide. Bath & Body Works is apparently, in 2022, $7.9 billion. And the only brand they own is Bath & Body Works. Apparently, they used to own Victoria's Secret or manufacture Victoria's Secret beauty products. So anyway, that was an interesting one to hear about. So I did not expect to see Bath & Body Works on the list, but it makes sense. They've got stores everywhere. So, I mean, it makes sense. I guess they just don't notably own any brands. Okay, coming at $7.7 billion, Johnson & Johnson. And they don't own a ton, but a couple of these are huge, huge names. So they've got a brand called Ambi, A-M-B-I. They own Aveeno, huge brand. Clean & Clear, which is another big brand, probably more in the young people category. They own Cordaid, which makes cortisone cream and other ointments and treatments and things like that. Lubriderm lotion, they're huge. Neutrogena, that's probably going to be their biggest brand, and Neutrogena is pretty large. ROC, R-O-C. So if you're looking for retinol, ROC and Neutrogena, typically they're identical to each other, so whichever one's on sale or cheaper, that's the one I would buy. And then they also own Rogaine, the hair care brand. Okay, so at $0.2 billion less, we've got Louis Vuitton, Monet, Hennessy, which is notably for some Sephora brands. And we've got Benefit Cosmetics, we've got Fenty Beauty, Fresh, Guerlain KVD Beauty, which used to be Kat Von D Beauty. Now it's KVD Beauty. Makeup Forever, which probably makes sense why they're the front row of most stores. Makeup Forever, usually the very first row in every Sephora that around here anyway is always Makeup Forever. Marc Jacobs Beauty. I'm not exactly sure what the heck is going on with that brand because I don't see it anymore, but I've heard rumors that they're going to come out with a few of their products. No idea. Ole Henriksen, and then Stella McCartney Skincare, which probably very overpriced. Okay, so another one probably not on this list is a smaller one at $7.1 billion, and that's Natura & Company. And I think these are MLMs because Avon is in there, The Body Shop, Aesop, and then Natura. I never really heard of that company until I did this list, so I don't know. If you know more about them, leave a comment. Didn't know they existed, but I guess I knew Avon and The Body Shop were owned by the same people, so. Okay. Coming in next, we've got Coty, which is $5.1 billion, and they own a lot of popular names. Kylie Jenner, Burberry, Clairol, GHD, which I believe manufactures hair care and hair care products. Gucci, which has some really expensive lipsticks. If you're looking for a ridiculously expensive lipstick, Gucci's got them. The packaging is pretty, I get it, but the lipstick, I don't know. Lipstick's not that expensive to make. Okay, they also own Philosophy, CoverGirl, Rimmel, Max Factor, Nioxin, the hair care brand, Sally Hansen, which I think is mostly nails, and then Wella, which I think is hair care. Okay, a couple more. We've got Kao, K-A-O, $5 billion. And they own, these are mostly Asian beauty brands. They own Kérastase, Canbo, Molton Brown, Biore, Jergens, John Frieda, and Oreb. Then we have LG House and Home, which is $4.8 billion, which owns more Asian beauty brands. The History of Woo, Sum 37, Belief, CNP, Surihan, and The Face Shop. Next up, we've got Amore Pacific at $4.4 billion. They obviously own Amore Pacific, CosRx, A2Day, Hera, Innisfree, Iope, Haniel, Laneige, Mamand, Primera, Sulwhasoo, and just this year they bought Tata Harper. So that's kind of interesting. And then a few that I don't have numbers for. We've got Beiersdorf, which is a brand they own Nivea, Eucerin, Coppertone, and Chantecaille. We've got Galderma brands, which own Cetaphil and Differin. TBG Growth, which I think is just an investment company, owns Elf Cosmetics. Colgate Palmolive, I didn't realize this, they owned Elta MD and PCA Skin. Then we've got Revlon, which owns Almay and Elizabeth Arden. Kose owns Tarte and Awake. And then pretty much a lot of the other brands are indie brands, ones that I haven't listed. Hopefully a lot of them will be indie brands, or some of them might be. A great amount of them that weren't indie brands were in like an investment group or owned by like small companies that just invest in a handful of brands and products. So a few indie brands. Apparently one of the largest indie brands, or the big indie brand with the biggest revenue I read, was Peter Thomas Roth. So it sounds like he still owns his brand. SkinFix is still kind of indie. They have some investments, but they're not owned by a giant conglomerate. Summer Fridays, Augustin Espater, Beauty Blender, Caudalie, Dr. Dennis Gross. I had to mention Geek and Gorgeous because I love them. Glow Recipe, Good Molecules, Hyperskin, Kopari, Mad Hippie, Natasha Denona. And just because I didn't mention them in one of these lists, a lot of K-beauty brands, I couldn't find out who owns them. I'm going to guess a lot of them are probably owned by themselves. Like I was looking for Isntree. Couldn't really find anything about them, or Mary and May. So anyway, it's interesting. So, there's always some of these brands I disagree with some of the ethical things they do. So anyway, in the long run, if you're buying skincare, usually you're going to end up supporting one of these brands somehow, one way or another. Especially some of them when you don't agree with, I don't like Nestle's, not a big fan of Nestle. And they're somehow slightly afar related to some of these. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. So more thoughts or comments you guys have, leave them below. And if you have any other info, leave a comment, and I will see you guys more tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.